Welcome back to Monologues, unpacking of the weekly Haftorah. You're listening to Rabbi Yaakov Trump. This week we're going to be looking at Parshas Nitzavim, the Haftorah of Parshas Nitzavim, which is the seventh and last of the Haftorahs of Nechemta of Consolation. Our Haftorah is to be found in Yeshayahu Perek Samach Aleph Pasuk Yud to Perek Samach Gimel Pasuk Tes. It's a longer Haftorah spanning the entire Perek Samach Beis and the end of Samach Aleph and the beginning of Samach Gimel. And we're going to just break it into two pieces, looking at really the first section up to the end of Perek Samach Beis, and then the second section from Samach Gimel. The first section is about the resurrection of Yerushalayim. So we hear about HaKadosh Baruch Hu describing Sois Asis Ba'Hashem Tagel Nafshi Be'Elokai Hikil Bishani Bigdei Yesha. So it's now a description of Yerushalayim talking, that Sion is saying that it is going to rejoice in Hashem being there, because it has been reclothed with the clothing of salvation and tzedakah. Like the bride and the groom are entering into their chuppah, they are wearing all the grandeur. They know they have been brought back. That's Yerushalayim, and that's what Israel is feeling at this way. How does it know that it's reached the stage? Because it is now flowering. As the Gemara in Ksubas describes, based on these psukim, that there's no greater sign of the arrival of the Mashiach, of the end of time, than Israel welcoming back her children and flowering again as well. And in fact, we say Leman Tzion lo yechasher, Leman Yerushalayim lo yeshkoit, ki al yatzei kanogat tzikov yishaz kelapir eish, that it's going to, Hashem will not hesitate, will not tarry. He'll bring back that tzedek and the Yeshua, the righteousness and the salvation to Jerusalem, and everybody's going to see this. Everybody's going to notice that Jerusalem is reclaimed, reclothed by Hashem, and they will no longer say Azuvah. No longer will they call the city abandoned and the land desolate. Why? You will be called the land of the desire of Hashem. And you'll be coupled again, because you will be connected to your children. Your children will come to you. They will be al chomasayich Yerushalayim hifkadati shamrim kol hayom v'kol halayla. That the guards will be back on the walls of Jerusalem. This will be a repopulation. It'll be a opportunity of coming back again. Notice, by the way, that Chefziba, of course, is the name of one of the children, the daughters of Yeshayahu, named about the Geula, about the redemption, about how Hashem is going to want back Israel, want back Jerusalem as well. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, makes an oath, Nishpa Hashem biminoi, that I'm never going to give your crops, your produce to your enemies anymore. They're not going to drink your wine. Rather, they'll rather drink the wine in the confines, in the precinct of Jerusalem as well. And it's just really beautiful how it talks about how people are going to come through the gates and make way and make way, clean the rocks away and repopulate Yerushalayim as Hashem redeems her. It was a very, very beautiful description of this repopulation of Yerushalayim. There are a lot of images that are worthwhile noticing over here as well. And one of them is that when Mark Twain visited what was called then Palestine, which is a province of the Ottoman Empire, not its own country, but it's just the area that the Roman name had been given, of Palestine, he described in his book called Innocents Abroad, in his trip that he took there, he describes his picture of Jerusalem. And yet, to quote, he says, "No landscape exists that is more tiresome to the eye than that which bounds the approaches to Jerusalem. The only difference between the roads and the surrounding country, perhaps, is that there are more rocks on the roads than the surrounding country." That's the way he described Jerusalem. And now we hear about it, how that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to allow the land to be tzaimeach, to bring forth its produce, how the city will be vibrant. That's what we've been witnessing in the last 150 years since he described this in the mid-1800s. Rav Shua points out that in this section of our Haftorah, you'll notice that in his commentary on Sefer Yeshayahu, that the words that are heralded together are tzedakah and Yeshua, or tzedakah and tehillah, that there's righteousness and salvation. And he points out that the one is a cause for the other as well. As we say, that matzmiach zorea tzedakos, matzmiach yeshuos. When you plant tzedakos, righteousness, then what will grow is yeshuos, will grow is salvation. In other words, what is the basis of the redemption that Hashem is giving to us is our tzedakos, is our righteousness as well. That means to say that it's not a reward, it is a consequence for bringing back righteousness, or bringing back honesty and integrity to Jerusalem. Hashem will bring back the Yeshua Torah as well. Why are there guards on the walls of Yerushalayim? Why is that? The Radak gives 4 explanations. He says it could be these are the angels who prayed over the destroyed walls of Jerusalem for centuries and who are now protecting it. Here's another possibility: is it could be those who mourned for Jerusalem for the day during the day and the night. They did tikkun chatzos. They got up in the middle of the night, as the Shulchan Aruch talks about this profoundly Kabbalistic prayer at midnight to say every night. Those who really were shomer, who waited for the rebuilding of Yerushalayim, now Hashem's going to allow those people to return to Yerushalayim. The third option is he says all the Jews in the exile for all these almost 2,000 years, where Jews face Jerusalem, they're shomrim. Whether they face the north, the south, the east, or the west, all Jews face Jerusalem. They face the Holy of Holies. So now HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to allow them to come back to the walls of Jerusalem. And finally, on a level of pshat, it could just be that in Yerushalayim will be so guarded that it will be impenetrable, that Jerusalem will be completely protected. You'll notice over here that in the description over here, it describes that your enemies won't drink your wine, but you'll drink your wine where? It's in the precincts of Yerushalayim, and says the Malbim, the greatest celebration of any physical blessing is when it's being lifted up to the divine, when we bring it as Ma'aser Sheni, Neta Revai, all the mitzvahs which are about eating it and bringing it, elevating it to a high level, that our life is infused with meaning rather than just infused with plenty. We move to the second half of the Haftarah, where we hear a description of vengeance. Here we hear a description of Mize Bami Edom Chamutz Begodim Botzra. Who is this person wearing the crimson garments coming from Botzra? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu now starts talking about this ascent of a person who's going to, this image is like a person who's Dorech Bagat, who's trampling in the press, Puro Darti Levadi, that this is going to be, so to speak, there's a day in the redemption that there's also going to be retribution. My day of redemption is coming, and a day of vengeance is in my heart, says Hashem. And I look and there's no one to help me. So it is only that is my anger which has been here as my support as well. So it described how HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to show chesed, going to show kindness upon Israel, but those who are against us will suffer for the lack of accountability for so many years when they did things to the nation of Israel in their various places of exile without anybody ever taking retribution or there ever being real justice as well. And finally, the Haftarah closes in all of their pain, it was painful to him. And it was in Hashem's grace that Hashem took the nation of Israel out, and Hashem took them out eternally as well. Just a few points to ponder in this section. What does it mean a day of vengeance is in my heart? Kiyom nakom bilibi. The Gemara in Sanhedrin Tzadi Tesavon Aleph tells us that the day of redemption is hidden even from the malachim, from the angels. That it's only in bilibi, in the heart of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Nobody really knows this as well. The Akedas Yitzchak, or Yitzhak Arama, in his commentary, actually makes an interesting point where he says that the more that we fixate on trying to figure out when the Geula is, when the redemption will be, the more it drifts away, because we are essentially abdicating our responsibility from the time that we're in right now. Meaning, the more we spend time dreaming about the future and thinking about when Mashiach will come, the less we worry about fixing the world that we need to do, investing the tzedakah to bring Matzmiach, the Yeshua as well. What does it mean that no one is there to help them? What does it mean no one that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, look, and there was no one there, ein samech, ein ozer. What does it mean that there was no one helping? Says the Mitzvos the Radak is that in Israel, Israel has none of its own merit. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to reach in even without us. However, says the Radak, it could also mean that none of the nations were ever interceding to help the nation of Israel. You think about it, even when the state of Israel was declared and Israel had 1 or 2 allies, just before the 6-day war, when the Arab armies were amassing Russian arms and dividing up maps of how they're going to destroy and conquer Israel and drive the Jews into the sea, and the world did absolutely nothing about it. France at that point in time, which was one of the only allies of Israel, supplying them with arms, then stopped, made an arms embargo on Israel at the 6 day war, just when they needed it most. And you think, when is it that the nations really care? No, answer is never really. At the conference which was had in Evian in just before World War II in 1938, where all the nations got together and saw, there's very serious things happening in Germany. Maybe we should help try to save the Jews. All the nations of the world, with the exception of one or two small states, essentially abdicated responsibility of looking after the Jews. This is the brink of destruction of European Jewry. Nobody really cared. Ein Ozer. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I do. There will be a day of retribution. That's how the end of the Haftorah is when HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, B'chol tzarasam lo tzar. In all of their pain, it is painful to him. Notice that there's two ways to read that word. One way is lamed aleph, which means loy. It is not, but it is actually read as lamed vav. It sounds the same, but it could look like, if you looked at the text, B'chol tzarasam lo tzar, in all their pain, it was not pain to him. But if you read it, the actual verbal or oral tradition is B'chol tzarasam lo tzar. It was really to him, lamed vav. There was pain to him. And that's really what's at stake over here. Is that when we look at the Jewish history, sometimes it looks like it doesn't matter to Hashem. Sometimes it looks like HaKadosh Baruch Hu is silent, and no, he doesn't really care. However, when we look more carefully, really, but called Sarah Sam Light Sarah, it was painful to Hashem, and this is the time where He's going to bring it back. This is the time where He's going to be able to achieve this. And that actually, the letters of the Kri and the Ksiv, the Aleph Lamed and the Vav Lamed, all together spell the letter Elul when HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be imminent in the world. Not just in the month, but Be'ezrat Hashem, in the time of the true redemption. This is the end of the 7 Haftorahs of Nehemiah. In the meantime, have a wonderful and meaningful day.